has been a consultant with most of the international organizations like the World Bank, IMF, UN, WHO, FAO, etc., and also the corporate ones like McKinsey, KPMG, PwC, etc. And he's also worked with universities like Purdue, FIT, Harvard, and from the 22nd of this month, which is October the 22nd, he will be the lead advisor on trade and commerce with Niti Ayog. Hi everyone, this is Sudeshna from the Abundant Psyche, and you are listening to the Not So Corporate podcast. Here we talk about all of those not so corporate things that make us corporate entrepreneurs more successful than our corporate peers. And today I have a very special guest. Every guest is special, but this person's a bit different to the normal guests that I get because he is one of a kind. He is both an academic and a corporate person, and he advises various governments on policies, etc. And also, I think he's one of the most clear thinkers that I have ever seen. I have the immense pleasure of introducing to you Bhadra Narayanan. Badri is an economist based in Seattle, working with academia, industry, and public policy with institutions across the world. And he is affiliated with a number of think tanks. He also is the founder of Infisum.com, a global economic and data analytics consulting firm. And he has been a consultant with most of the international organizations like the World Bank, IMF, UN, WHO, FAO, etc., and also the corporate ones like McKinsey, KPMG, PwC, etc. And he's also worked with universities like Purdue, FIT, Harvard, and from the 22nd of this month, which is October the 22nd, he will be the lead advisor on trade and commerce with Niti Ayog with the government of India. I have Badri with me. He is an amazing thinker in our times. I think he treads across economics, policy, startup consulting, AI, data science, all of those good things. It's my pleasure to introduce Bhadra Narayanan to you. Welcome to the show, Badri. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you, Sudeshna. I'm great to be. I feel really wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me.
Badri, you do a bunch of things, and I have kept the message really short in terms of what you do. Like you said from our conversation before, very, very cryptic. But because you do so many things like consulting the IMF, the World Bank, McKinsey, startups, PwC, like, what is it that you do? What does your normal day look like?
Yes, Sudeshna, thank you. When I think about all the list of things that I do, I myself get overwhelmed sometimes. But the way it works is, by nature, I like kind of multitasking. So I'm that you can say that that's kind of like, some people think of that as a problem, basically. Like, why are you not doing just one thing, focusing on that? I've actually got a lot of feedback like that from some senior people, that why do you not stick to just one thing and do that, and why are you doing so many things? But I kind of took that as an advantage. So because I like, on any given day, I like to think about a few different issues with some depth. So I don't want to just say, okay, this is the thing I'm doing for the next 6 months. I don't want to think about anything else. So that doesn't work with me. I also don't want to compromise on depth at the same time. So depth has to be there, but at the same time, breadth is something that appeals to me a lot. So in terms of what I do on a given day, I start the day with where I left yesterday, what are the different things that are there, and bunch of meetings. Typically, a lot of my work nowadays is like just talking to people a lot. Then the real work starts after the meetings, right? So then I still do a lot of hands-on work, mostly technical work. So basically, one common thing connecting all these different things I'm doing is like my technical orientation. Basically, modeling, economic modeling, data science, analytics. So these are the kind of tools that I work on, and I use them and pack them with some storytelling that appeals to different audiences. Initially, I was doing pretty much on my own, like 5, 6 years ago when I started off. I was in academia, and then I started moving. So I was pretty much, my own, working on my own. But then I realized it's not possible because I only have 24 hours. So gradually we set up a team. We have this company, and now it's comfortable and convenient. So I mostly focus on the high level issues, and then I guide my team, and my team takes care of the rest. So that is how things have been working. And in terms of all these different clients, it all started when I was an academic. I was at Purdue University. Like, I always like to work on the real world issues, something that can really be impactful. So I always kept in touch with the practical people, decision makers, and I published academic research, but I always wanted to have some real world connection. In every paper I write, there has to be some contemporary issues being considered. In fact, that was the case from the time I started my PhD, because I came from an engineering background and I had a little bit of industry experience. And when I started my PhD, I wanted to do something that can capitalize on my industry experience, something that's something that I can go back and talk to my engineering friends, saying that this is a cool thing I'm doing. So I always had that inkling, and that helped me to have this balance between academia, where I have to publish papers and make an academic reputation, talk in universities, teach students, and so on, and at the same time talk to practical people, decision makers, like the list of organizations you mentioned, UN, World Bank, IMF, FAO, WHO, and so on, and and also private sector. Talk to private sector like McKinsey, PwC, KPMG, Google, and so on. So then when I moved to Seattle in 2015. So then I started also interacting a lot with the startups, because there is a vibrant startup ecosystem here in tech industry particularly. So rather than feel kind of left out that I'm the only economist here, having that feeling. So instead of that, I started getting actively engaged with the startups. And then I found there are a lot of things we can contribute. We can collaborate and contribute to the startups as well. So, and I became advisor to many startups and started collaborating with them. So I actually, one short answer to your question is that, like, everything I do, I think of it as a learning opportunity. So I don't go to any client saying that, oh, I know a lot, I'm going to share my wisdom with you, and that is actually not true. And I'm kind of upright about it. I tell them that, frankly speaking, you're paying me, but I'm going to learn more from you than what I'm going to give you. But maybe you are seeing some value in it, so you're paying me, but I'm actually very grateful to you for this opportunity. So that's my attitude when I go to people, and that is actually not, like, I'm not saying just to be nice. That is actually a fact. I actually have learned a lot from my clients and my collaborators than what I have given them. I feel like I'm always indebted to all my people I've collaborated with, I've consulted with, and so on. And some kind of I would say a combination of reality and illusion, that we are making some difference, right? So it's reality because it is leading to some decisions and so on. It's also kind of illusory because things will happen on their own. Like I'm not needed for making the changes, but I'm probably being a kind of a catalyst or something. So that's the second thing. So learning experience and the feeling of being able to make a difference.
That is so powerful, Badri, and there's so much to unpack there. Just if I can restate that looking at everything as a learning experience rather than being this big consultant who's wise and knows everything and comes with the book of answers is almost sometimes a closed way of actually being able to help people and clients on their journeys. But if I go back to the beginning of what you said that you want to go to the depth, but you almost picked 4 or 5 different areas that you wanted to focus on. How did you go about picking those areas?
Very beginning of my career, like my PhD, at that point, I was thinking that I was new to research, new to the world of economics and everything. So I was thinking, rather than doing something hardcore economics or like hardcore like macroeconomics or money supply and all these things. I wanted to do something where there is some kind of continuity between what I did before and there. And I was in the manufacturing sector in the textile industry, so I decided my thesis is going to be on that topic. So then I went ahead with that. So my initial approach was like that. I always looked for a continuity between what I did earlier and what I'm going to do next, but then some diversification there. So my next after my PhD, my first job was in manufacturing, but not textile industry, but auto industry. So then I got into steel industry. Then I got into international trade. So one thing leading to the other, it happened. So initially, I had a little bit of guidance from my side that okay, this is what I know, this is what I want to do. I don't want to get into something that I'm not completely comfortable with. So that way, that was a depth thing that I was talking about. But then I also gradually made myself open to any opportunity that comes my way. So gradually, like rather than me evaluating what is good for me, what is thing that I can excel, I can do well. I thought I'll leave it to the people who are assessing me or working with me, and that actually worked quite well, particularly at a younger stage when I was like my formative years, when I was very young and kind of immature. I didn't know what I want to do and so on. I thought I'll kind of leave it to the market. Let the market decide what I'm good at. So that is how I got into, like, I initially experimented with, for my dissertation it was pretty technical. As you know, our alma mater, we do a lot of technical stuff, statistical, econometric kind of work. And I tried to connect it a little bit to the real world, but it was not that practical. But so I thought my first job should be very practical. It has to be very practical, less technical, and that's how I took my first think tank job. But then after some time, I felt it was like too practical, in the sense it was almost like bordering journalism. So you basically learn something on the ground and write a report based on that. So I wanted a combination of this. So that is when I decided, okay, I needed some technical stuff which is very practically relevant. And that is what I finally got into at Purdue University. Since then, what happened was I started positioning myself as a person of numbers who can deal with numbers, do a lot of analytics, econometrics, different types of modeling. But in terms of domain, I'm kind of neutral. I'm not. I'm kind of agnostic. I can work on anything. Anybody comes to me, gives some piece of data, and says, I want to work on this. I say, yeah, I can do the analysis, but I'll explain what I get from my analysis. But you please tell me if it makes sense, because I don't know your area. You are the expert, so I'll do it, and you let me know if it makes sense. So the depth comes on that part. The depth that I was talking about is on the methodological thing, and breadth comes because I worked with many people, like that. So they would give me the subject domain expertise, and that is how I gradually, that domain expertise also became mine over time. Like, for example, international trade, I had no training in international trade in my PhD times. I don't even remember doing a course on international trade. But now I'm called as an expert on international trade because over time I learned it from many other experts by working with them. And then I said I try to regulate myself, saying that okay, whatever I do must have some relevance on global economy, international business, international trade. So then again, I got into trade and energy, trade and environment, trade and labor, and trade and manufacturing, trade and agriculture. So all these different things came up, and that is how I started developing some models and data sets, global data sets that a lot of people started using. And some of these data sets and models I developed, they can deal with any sector, any country. So that led me to work on any topic under the sun. Okay, you want to work on cybersecurity? Yes, we can do. If you want to work on blockchain, yes. On tobacco, yes. So any kind of topic came there, and that is how I also approach people. I said, people, like, I have developed this nice model which has all sectors, all countries, um, and we can also customize it further if you want a particular sector that's not there. So that is how I kind of identified these different areas where I wanted this broad, with the breadth going at a little higher level. And then you can say one set of things I chose to do in the long term. I mean, starting from where I started and now and in the future, is hardcore academic work, where like some work that can be deep enough and novel enough and not necessarily extremely practical and can be published in good journals. So that is something that keeps going on. The second type of work is more like policy analysis kind of work, which has a little bit of academic flavor, but more practical and leading to evaluation of policies, um, and also like evaluation of policies before they are introduced or implemented, and also after they are introduced or implemented. When I say policy, again, I'm not getting into the details. There can be many different areas. Even in economics, academia also, there are many different areas. Not only economics, but also other fields like business, computer science, data science in general. Little bit of social sciences also. Also doing some collaborations with psychologists and so on. So a lot of many different areas going on, interdisciplinary work. Then I told academia, policy. Then the third area is like industry broadly. I'm talking about corporates. So there again, the thing is two aspects. One is how since my expertise is mainly on academics and policy over time, take that expertise and apply to corporates. How different policy changes are going to affect a particular industry, a particular company. How, for example, US-China trade tensions, how that creates an opportunity or a challenge for a company. Those kind of things. Things that companies, corporates genuinely want to understand. They don't have any point of view. They don't have any idea. They want to really understand. That is one aspect. And second aspect is they have a point of view, but they want to understand the numbers. They want to do some kind of policy advocacy. They want to influence policy in a positive way, and they need some analytical support for that. So that is the second type of things that I do with corporates, and that is a third bucket. The fourth bucket is like startups, and startups, and I can say SMEs in general, MSMEs in general. So there, my interest was on two aspects. One is that the policy, the governments, international organizations, and big corporates, they can get help anyway. Like they're all big institutions, they can help anyway. But the small SMEs, small medium enterprises, and startups, they are the ones who typically get affected by all these policy changes and big corporate strategies. So they have to be more vigilant and more knowledgeable about these aspects. But they are the ones who are least informed and least helped in this way. So I thought there is a huge gap there from an impact point of view, like just to help them, and any country you take in the world, SMEs are a big part of the economy. They are going to contribute a lot, and the startups today are going to be tomorrow's Facebook and Google, right? So I thought they can make a huge impact, and we want to help them. And that's not necessarily like a commercial thinking, but more like contributing to the society and economy. But then eventually that also makes commercial sense, because you can work with many such organizations, and you can add value to them, and obviously there'll be returns to that also. So these are the broad, very high level areas, I would say. And I'm always driven by that impact, like how can we make a difference in the clients, in the policy, people at large, industry, startups, all these things. In all these things, that was the main thing, not the right thing to say as an entrepreneur, but I never thought much about the commercial aspects. The commercial aspects came as a result of the impacts that you create, because as you add value, when you create impact, you automatically the commercial things happen on their own.
Yeah, exactly right. I don't know how much you have heard of me, but I typically tend to go off on a tangent and say, what is money? Money is value that you create in the world. If you create value, you'll get the money. That's almost the most certain way of getting money flowing in to you. Just find a place to add value, and the rest will follow. That is really cool, Badri. And I really admire how you said that you almost surrendered, in a way, if I will use that word. You surrendered to the market and let the market decide what was it that they saw in you, but also you maintained this personal agency around this is what makes more impact in the world. So do you have any advice for mid-career folks who are probably in that dilemma of, I'm doing this, but is this all, is this, so if I talk a bit about my clients in my audience, they typically tend to be mid-career people who are almost questioning their career path and wondering whether this is it, whether this is all that life has to offer, or they almost want to get to the next rung of that corporate leadership or leadership in general. Would you have any advice for them in your personal, through your professional and personal journey?
Sure, Sudeshna. That's something that I've also thought about a lot. You know that our kind of career, like or my this economics, strategy, business, this kind of career. From the beginning, we know that it's kind of like a public career. Like your work itself is to create impact, talk to people, influence policies and so on. So in this context, it's you get an inkling as to what next. But there are other careers where, like tech industry and other kind of careers, where you people tend to get into that kind of a situation. So on this, what I think is, irrespective of what you do, when you are in your mid-career situation, like 10, 20 years experience kind of situation, it's nobody can deny that you know something really well because you have stuck to something for so many years. So what I tend to advise most people I see, like my friends who are in the industry from my engineering, who studied engineering with me, and others who talk to me, I advise them on one thing, that is like try to create your own um, value and branding outside your office. Like you, of course, in office you're doing well, all your colleagues know you well, but also maybe write a blog or uh, have a YouTube channel, or do something to share your wisdom with people. That okay, this is something I've learned, and maybe you guys can learn from this. I'll give you an example. Like there was a guy I met in a hotel. I was in Ritz Carlton in Riyadh, and one of the servers, like the person who was looking after me for some food and so on. So he was from India, and he was just excited about my. He had a brief conversation about my work, and he was very excited. And he said, "How can I, develop my career like you? I'm right now a very, modest kind of person. I don't have much of a, intellectual or any kind of background. But how can I develop this?" So I said, "You have two ways. One is, you probably quit the job and or do an MBA or something and get into that, or you stay here and start writing on something, writing on like whatever you know about Ritz Carlton, all these big hotels, nobody knows, and he can give some tips on how to, like there's a lot of hidden things that, I mean, they're not secrets, but not many people know on how to, get a room at a low cost there, and whom to approach for discounts and whatnot, whatever knowledge he has, and he was very excited about that, and he has been in touch with me. I keep telling him things like that, and he's also thinking of doing something like that. So but he's not even a like mid-career guy, he's just like 5 years experienced or something. I also heard an audiobook which was kind of, I forgot the details, but it kind of alluded to something like this. I was very surprised. It's kind of very similar to the career that I evolved over time. But in my case, it's actually what the essence of that book was, that whatever field you are in, you try to develop your own branding, and you develop your own branding just by doing a lot of things for free. Share your knowledge, share your wisdom to people, and you create like a tribe. Basically, it's like creating a tribe of your own, and then you break free. Then you just come out and cater to them, and you can make your commercial thing also. And in our field, in like research and policy, this is actually what happens. We write papers, we develop our own reputation, and then people come to us automatically, right? So that's how we also evolve. But this is more like a standard path for us. But for other fields, it's not that such a standard path, because not many people get into content creation. That is something that's like either writing or video or whatever they want to do, podcast, anything. So that is what I would suggest. Like if somebody wants to, I mean, apart from the other things, they may have other roads, like you said, go up the ladder and become a CEO. Those things are there. But if they want to really have some kind of work-life balance and do something on their own and create a lot more value than what they are creating within the shackles of the corporate world, whatever restrictions they have, they can do that. And of course, the other thing is create think about a very creative idea which is informed by your corporate experience and something that can change the world. And again, like you mentioned earlier, it's all about execution. You have all these nice ideas, and then think about how to execute. Join hands with other people, have some kind of structured way of thinking, arguing, debating before you can actually announce it and take it in a big way. So I think these are certain things I try to tell people, because even when I was in a very secure, permanent kind of academic job with a lot of reputation, it was a very difficult decision to quit actually. But I thought, today when I think about it, I feel very happy about it, because it was all positive. And the kind of reputation and the reach and impact I was able to create was much bigger compared to what I could do in a full-time position. And as you know, academics are actually free. We have a lot of freedom and liberty, but even with that, I felt some kind of constraining. And when I let go of that, I was able to do a lot of great things. So that's what I also advise people. I mean, it's not. I'm not saying that everyone should quit their job and start something like this, but they can do like an incremental approach while being there. They can test waters, try some of these things, and many. A good thing is many corporates do allow for this kind of creative activities. So you be in a day job, but you do something, unless in other ways you're competing with the company. So unless you're not doing that, you can do anything else. And another thing I suggest is also doing some kind of a higher study, like whatever they always wanted to do, they couldn't do because of their regimental thinking. Like particularly in India, we have this: if you're smart, do engineering, or medical, and then that's it. So we, like, even I came from that background. I did my engineering first, and later I moved to PhD economics. Do this combination of rigor and practical relevance. And then there was a lot of market for that. When people see me, they say that I'm an academic. So when you say academic, you can think of two things. One thing is like they are very theoretical, they don't know about the real world. Or second thing is, they're very neutral. They have no stake in anything, so they'll be very blunt and they'll state the facts. So mostly in my case, I don't play the first part because I worked on a lot of practical stuff, and the second part was always there to help me. So that is how I shaped my career over time. But this is just a very specific example of myself. But for others, they can always find something like this. Like, how do you strike a balance between these three? But then ultimately, you have to, like you also rightly pointed out, only if you have that quest for creating an impact, we can make a difference, both for ourselves and for others. Because if we do something, we really get excited, but nobody gets impacted by it, then it's not going to go anywhere, right? I mean, there is a beauty to that. Like, for example, mathematicians, they do that, and what they do affects the world in 50 years, 100 years, and that is beautiful. We need people like that. But then there are people who don't, like, they're very happy to be irrelevant. They're not they don't have that quest for influencing the world today. They just want to do their beautiful things, creative things, and world will take notice of it later. They're okay with that. But that is one. I mean, definitely some people can take that path, but I prefer taking this path where today you do something and you see some impact. Tomorrow you see some, like, immediately you see some impact, and I think that's what keeps me going, and that's what for most people that should be a good equilibrium.
This is pure gold, and it's as if you have gotten into my head and read out everything that I was sharing with a bunch of my clients a couple of weeks back. And that's exactly what I was saying, that combine all of the things that you know about, create content around it, and don't be afraid to share it out to the world. Because I think quite a lot of times, and this is probably less true for academics, just because you are expected to write and put your name on a paper and all of that. But for corporate folks, I think because we have the slightly more luxurious situation of hiding behind a brand name, we feel very personally affected when we have to put our name on an idea. And that I don't know how you feel about that, Badri, but has this ever affected you in terms of, oh, I will now be the person who's known for this, what if I'm wrong? A lot of self-doubt, etc., keeps coming. And again, I say this from a corporate perspective, but I think, yeah, like I said, from academics, I think we expect that rather than not. But is this something that you have ever dealt with?
Yeah, Sudeshna, like when I was writing academic papers, I did not have this problem at all, because we would spend a lot of time and we'll be very sure of what we are writing. But when I started consulting with like McKinsey and other policy organizations, writing reports, and some of them carried my name as well. So there I was a little like, sometimes we have to do things very fast, like both in the corporates and even in the policy also. They need, like, what I would have taken in academia for a year, they would want in like 2-3 weeks. So at that point of time, sometimes I have felt a little bit of hesitation. Sometimes I even maybe only 1 or 2 times I have told them not to explicitly include my name, because I would have wanted to work on it for a few more weeks at least. You guys are in a hurry, so don't undermine my reputation, because I'm not completely there yet. But since you guys want it quickly, we did it. I've done that, but not that's only 1 or 2 times I had to do that. But otherwise, what I learned over time in the industry, working with McKinsey and other folks, is to find that balance between depth and what is relevant. So yes, if you want to be really methodologically rigorous, I can go deep and deep and figure out something. And and then, like, what I found in academia is that a lot of improvements we do in a given paper would be incremental. So basically, all the new methodological innovations that you come up with, compared to what was done before, if you apply for a practical problem, the differences will be like a small delta. So I thought that, like, for these reports, the practical reports, what people are looking for is insights, not the accuracy of the results, or things like that. So I make that point clear when I write these papers, or when I present it to the different audience. I say that, okay, don't look for methodological perfection, because we had to do it very quickly. But at the same time, we are very confident of the results, and the results from a qualitative perspective, from a storytelling insights perspective. Even if I had worked on it for one more year, I would have come up with the same conclusion. Maybe I would have said like $1 million higher impact or a lower impact and so on. But in percentage terms, it will be like third or fourth decimal, or even maybe second decimal. It doesn't matter. So that's if I get that level of confidence, then I would go for it. From a corporate point of view, I think it can be. I agree that it can be very intimidating. First, you may think, oh, it's going to be very controversial. People are going to quote me, fight with me, and it has also happened to me also. Like in the last few years, sometimes I write a paper like this policy reports, and some people I'll get a lot of support, a lot of retweets and support, and a lot of and some opposition also. And then whenever there is an opposition, I would make sure to talk to them, have a dialogue with them, explain the methodological facts, not getting into the political differences, because when you particularly when you write a policy paper, there would be political supporters and opposers of that. But I am writing from a researcher, from an independent point of view. So the first thing I have to tell them is that, see, this is a technical thing, so let's talk in a technical way, and not just bracket into some political ideologies. So then sometimes they would agree. Sometimes they'll say, okay, whatever you say, I won't agree because your message is totally against my thinking. So then we just, okay, then, I mean, I'm just talking based on facts, but if you disagree, then that's a different story, right? So those things happen, and the moment you are confident of what you do is right, and you can defend before anyone, you should not worry about your name being there. So your conscience should be clear, basically. So you should know that what you did is right, and no matter, and then you can also change stances. Like sometimes you do something 2 3 years ago, and now you write a new paper which is totally different, and then you can say, yeah, I learned over time. At that point of time, with all the information I had, this was the thing that I could say. Today things have changed, and the facts also change over time. I mean, it's not like sun rises in the east. Many of the things are very dynamic, they keep changing. So you can be bold enough and say that. But yes, first you have to internally, you have to have that consistency and that confidence. And then if you are confident, then you should just take that, and you will, in order to be in order to develop a reputation, to be quoted by people, and also create a lot of value and so on, you have to be somewhat, you will be controversial somewhere or the other. So if you are bold enough to say something, some people are going to dislike you, because anything you say, there'll be some camp that opposes that, and they will fight against you or target you. But given that you are not from the other camp, and you're not like a politically oriented person, you're a technical expert, you shouldn't worry about that. You should just go ahead and say, and only then, in fact, only then you get more visibility. Only when you have both supporters and detractors, you will your work will be more impactful. For example, I did some work on tobacco, so obviously, my work is going to be about controlling tobacco, how to reduce tobacco consumption, and so on. So obviously, the tobacco companies are going to hate me. But should I feel bad about it? Probably no, right? Because I'm not going to work with them, or I'm not going to care what they think about me, because what I am sure that what I did is in the interest of people at large.
I love that. And in fact, like two things that you said. One thing is that you can only optimize from one perspective, not from all perspectives. And the other thing I think you said was you have the ability to change your opinion over time. And data changes, systems change, our world changes massively in the whole time frame that our lives would ever encompass, and then we as people change and we change our perceptions, etc. So that itself should almost give us the freedom of being our whole self, and then be open to accepting change in ourselves and go into the future and say, okay, maybe I was naive and I did not know enough about things, and yeah, I was wrong, and now I correct my position to this. I think that's really powerful. If I bring the whole thing back, I know, Badri, you call your consulting company Infisum. Can I ask you why you call it Infisum?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sudeshna. My partner and I, we first registered it in Canada, and I came up with a very boring name, something like Policy Research Institute, or something like a very generic name, and they didn't accept, actually. The government authority that registers companies, they said, we don't accept these kind of generic names, come up with something specific. So my partner said, why don't we just use our names, Charles and Badri Company, something like that. So I said, I didn't like that idea. I said, no, we are trying to create an institution. Our name should not matter. It should be beyond us. So then, like, one thing that was common between my partner and me, and my partner has quit now. He's with the government of Canada now. So we both of us thought, like, we were actually going through some kind of midlife career situation, in the sense that, I mean, we are doing well, but one thing we were facing was that, like, there is this zero sum thinking everywhere, like in corporates, in academia, everywhere. So particularly like, if there is an established person in the field, and then you are an upcoming person, sometimes they encourage you to go to certain level, and after beyond certain level, they feel kind of bewildered that, okay, this guy is going to take my position. So then there is a little bit of information asymmetry. They don't guide them properly, or they even kind of hamper their development and so on. So we faced, both of us faced in different situations these things. And then we thought, and similarly, what I also faced, what I also looked at was like when you interact with the clients, both in the, I had talked to friends in the corporate world and in academic world. When you talk to the clients, again, you have this, you don't give them your best many times, because you think if you give them everything, they won't come back to you for another project, right? So you want to keep something that is, pending, so that they can come back again. So again, this is also like a kind of zero sum thinking, because if you are kind of insecure that if you give them everything they won't come back, that means that by coming back they are probably going to, by not coming back, they're going to gain something and you're going to lose something, right? So that's not the case. So what I thought was kind of a romantic thinking, where in the entire world, if nobody has this zero sum thinking, if everyone thinks that, okay, we do the best, we do what is in the best interest of you, you do what is in the best interest of me, and we collaborate, and we don't think about you cheating me, I cheating you, you hiding some facts from me, and me doing that, then there can be a lot of synergies. So that's where I thought like we have to do something like the opposite of zero sum. And I wasn't satisfied with finite sum, because that is, again, finite sum is okay, but it doesn't look very that informative. So then I came with infinite sum. Then I also was influenced by the some of our philosophy, some of the ancient philosophy from India. There is a book named The Science of Getting Rich. So the name sounds like very, kind of uninteresting, in the sense like there's so many the DIY books, right? Like how to become rich one day, 30 days. But it is not like that. It's a book written in the 1920s, so it's a very old book. And they actually, in the preface, the author, he mentions that the whole book was inspired by the ancient Indian philosophy. You can make use of this mid-career crisis to change gears and go and do things that you always like, that you always wanted to do. Like I know one friend, she's from Netherlands, and she is a very well-known economist. And in the middle of her career, she studied architecture, and she also then she became like a part-time architect, and I think now she's a full-time architect and part-time economist. So you can try a lot of these creative things. And sometimes like one broad philosophical idea that I think about is like all of us have like some passion for something, and then we have some capabilities, and then there is some market for things, right? There are three different things. So if we align all the three, then that's going to be the best. Because I, for example, I like cricket a lot. I have a lot of passion for playing cricket, but I don't have the capabilities, right? So I can dream about being like Sachin Tendulkar or whoever, but I can never even play with a local. Even if a local bowler bowls me, I'll be out or something. So I should not be pursuing that passion. Although it's my passion, I should not be going there. But let's say I'm a good writer and a good speaker, then probably I should actually get inspired by somebody like Harsha Bogle, one of the commentators. So become a commentator. You love cricket, that's your passion, but your abilities are for speaking or writing, then you get into that. And there is market for that. There is, if you are that kind of person, you do that. And you see a lot of people, I mean, in the Western countries, it has always been the case. People study something, and over time they discover something as their passion, and they become well known in that. But nowadays, in the current generation, and in India also, it's happening. In India, traditionally, what happened was we chose a nice career and then we stick to that till we retire. But now a lot of young kids are getting into creative pursuits, startups, and all kinds of things after few years of experience. So I think that is this alignment between these three, capabilities, passion, and market scope in the market is something that's very interesting. Because in my case, I was actually very passionate about publishing in the top economics journal, writing like a very theoretical paper and so on. Then I realized my capabilities are not that. My capabilities are more like being an applied person, taking the best of the theories and applying in the real world. So I decided, okay, I'm not going to pursue the passion, which is like at least publish a few papers in the top journals, but I'll I'll take advantage of my capabilities, which is like by creating a commercial thing, you are not eating into somebody else. You don't have to hurt somebody to you yourself become rich, because you can think about a value, think about a new thing, meditate on it, and then bring it to fruition, and that can also benefit others. It need not be something that is like you do aggressively and eat into somebody else's shares to become rich. Like you don't have to exploit others to become rich, that kind of thing. And that book actually influenced me a lot, and also brought me back to I'm quite interested in Indian philosophy. I have some knowledge, but I cannot say I have a lot of knowledge, but I have some introduction to it, the different philosophies we have, and so on. So if you see in our About Us page, I have also quoted that mantra, Purnamadah Purnam. So that was also another major inspiration. You can create this infinite value by just being good to each other, just by helping each other. Like we don't have to with the client. The practical implication is this: so we don't think of anyone as a competitor. If somebody thinks that oh, this guy is going big, we have to stop him or something, then I just go and directly talk to them, say that let's collaborate. So we don't think of anyone as a competitor. We collaborate with everyone, and the clients also. We don't try to hide anything. We give more value than what we promise. We try to, like, if we agree on certain terms, and if you find that we want to do more for them to actually get something out of it, because over time, many times what happens in consulting assignments is that you do agree on certain terms, you go ahead, and then later you realize that the client realizes that this is not what we are looking for. We are looking for something else. Then what we do in the big consulting firms, what we do is, no, these are the terms we agreed. We can do what you are asking for, but it's your mistake that you didn't tell us earlier. So we'll sign a new contract. Give me X more $1 million, right? So here we say, no, we understand. We understand this, and we can make it work. We don't need any more money. We can put the extra effort to do this. So what happens is such clients become really happy, and they come back to us again and again, and they understand that they can count on us. Any point of time they can count on us, and they can come back to us. So this is the practical implication of this philosophy. And even the employees also. So we make them feel like we're all part of it, and we give them, even the newest employee, we give them access to our biggest clients. They come and participate in the discussion, and that gives them a lot of value added as well. So we don't think, again, this is also happen within a firm. These things happen. Like you don't want to give access to all the things that we are doing to the employees, to the team members. That again we thought is a bad idea. So we keep everything transparent. Everyone knows what is going on with every client, and even if they are involved or not, they know, and they talk to the clients also. So these are some practical aspects that we follow. But yes, inspiration is mainly from the Indian philosophy. So I was very much inspired by that one mantra, that Purnamadah Purnam, and I was thinking how to put it in practice. Then I thought, at least in the name we should do it, and then we can keep reminding ourselves that this is our philosophy. This is how we are working on. We should make things work using this philosophy.
That's amazing. I mean, it's actually the second time today that mantra's come up. I was brought up on that mantra, basically. That used to be my prayer mantra when we were growing up in school. And for anyone who's listening, I'll put in the mantra below in the description box. What it really means is, I was almost getting like tears in my eyes. What it means is, the infinity is out there, but the infinity is also within you right here. And if you realize that right now, you'll realize that everything is you and there's nothing separate. And it's such a powerful way of living and being. And for the listeners, probably that the abundant psyche was basically named that and was born out of that don't create out of this limited scarcity mindset, but create out of abundance. And I think, Badri, that's what you are saying as well, that life or careers are not a zero sum game. it can be the opposite of that, which is the infinity sum, infi sum. That's amazing. And any last words of wisdom that you have? Like, I normally ask people, what is the not so corporate thing that's affected your life and career in the most significant way?
It's not a new point, but kind of emphasizing what I just mentioned earlier. Maybe I'll give some examples, just one or two examples from my career and life, which inspired me to do what I did. So long ago, when I was finishing my PhD, I had a discussion with a person named Dr. Subir Gokarn, whom you would know obviously, and he was at that time and he's no more now, and he was the head of Standard and Poor Asia Pacific at that time, and he kind of interviewed me, and so he was one of my kind of influencing mentors, and I actually went and met him for kind of an interview to get into his team, but he was so generous and so nice that the first thing he told me was like, I want to hire you. I'm I'm just, I have the offer letter ready even before talking to you. I know I want to hire you, but if I were you, I won't take up this job. So he said, and the reason he said was like some of the things that I mentioned earlier. So he said, you have a creative kind of, thinking and attitude. So why don't you go to academia, write papers, create your own, reputation, your own value, and then come to me after like 10 years or 15 years, once you are like me, you become like me, and then you're here. Just go wherever the market takes you, like the thing that I mentioned. So that piece of advice was very helpful to me, and that shows his generosity. Like he actually wanted, later he also talked to me to, he also told me that he will provide a good environment, and he also asked me to join his firm. But he already gave this advice, which knowing that this is going to influence me, he still told me. So that approach, like, I mean, that whole message he gave, I discussed with you already, how you develop your reputation and then do something big on your own. Just thinking about him as a person, how did he even think of doing that? He didn't have to tell that to me, so he had that generosity and simplicity to do that. And those are the virtues that I like to imbibe from people like him. So I want to and that's the same thing I would also advise people here, or kind of request people here, that you learn a lot in your life and your career and so on. And when somebody approaches you, or like, either if somebody approaches you, give them sincere advice based on what you have learned so far, and also do it a little more proactively, like what you are doing, creating all this content for people to benefit from. So I think that is very important. And although the intention or the philosophy of doing this is to help others, I've seen that it many times it helps ourselves. Like one another instance I can say is that when I was in the university, I at some point felt like I'm a researcher and I'm not much of like a manager or a leader. And that was the impression I had about myself. And and because I saw some other politics in the department, somebody else who was not that good in the technical side, but because of his some kind of manipulation and so on, he went up. So I was talking to my director about it, and she said, then I was kind of confessing that maybe since I'm not doing all this, like what you think of as manipulation and getting shortcuts to go up, since I'm not effective, I don't even think about those things. So I'll just be a technical person. I'll never be a manager or a leader. Then my director, she really she opened my eyes. She said, you think of yourself as a technical person, but we don't think of you like that. You are actually a leader. And I was surprised. How do you say that? I'm working on my own technical stuff. I talk to people, I do some coordination, but I don't do much leadership. But she said, no, you don't realize it, but you actually do a lot of leadership. Because my work at that point of time was, putting together this global data set by getting different components from different people And every single person across the world, everyone was doing it on a voluntary basis. Nobody was compensated. But I was there sitting there coordinating with all of them and motivating them to submit. And I had a timeline to follow. And I was still following the timeline. I was able to motivate all of them and do that. The moment she told that, then I realized, okay, I'm really doing well. This is actually not just a technical job, but also all this inspiration. And she said the reason why people really come to you and abide by your deadlines is not because they have all the time in the world and you are they somehow like our center and so on, but because they like you. If you ask something, nobody can say no, because you ask in a very gentle way, in a very humble way, and you also always help others. So then automatically they reciprocate, and that is why you are a leader. And I was very surprised. And since then, I think about that. I like before that, my impression of a leader or a manager is somebody who is like very like giving all the orders and manipulating things and so on. But then I realized that this is the actual leadership which I had without me knowing it. So I think that is another thing I would like to tell people. The more you help others, the more you become a leader. Not the other way. Not like commanding others, ordering others, manipulating others. That's not leadership. That works actually. I'm not saying that doesn't work. Those things also work, but those don't sustain. Even that example I gave you, he could not sustain because all the people who worked with him, they had only bad experience with him, and he got bad feedback, and eventually he couldn't sustain. So that goodwill and helping each other, that's what is going to help you become a leader or a manager, I think. So I think these are the few things I wanted to share from my experience.
That's been amazing. And yes, leadership is so much more about leading than about titles, I guess. And we fall in that illusion of who's a leader just based on what titles or whatever they carry. This has been such a pleasure, Badri. Thank you so much for coming on, and all the best for your role starting 22nd October with Niti Ayog. I don't want to stretch this conversation further out, but if you have any time later on in your really, really busy schedule, I would love for you to come and chat more about that specific piece of work or any other policy work, and maybe talk to you more about strategy, execution, people, psychology, and whatnot. But this has been such an honor, Badri. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sudeshna. I really enjoyed the conversation. It's such an honor and privilege for me as well to talk to you. Let's stay connected and look forward to more discussions in the future.